Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Okay, Saturday night, apocalypse. End times, no. After months of coronavirus, now we get into fire season. So, no internet, and so no live stream, and no the sound system actually relies on the Wi-Fi. So and then after today, there was a lot of smoke. I mean, it cleared up just before puja, but my we'll see how long my throat lasts. I think one of the things that comes to mind is that I've been recuperating the last 10 days or so from oral surgery and still a bit of pain and discomfort, but what it brings up is also a sense of gratitude for the form that we have and the emphasis that there is on within the training for looking after each other, looking after elders, looking after the sick, and so that I've been very well looked after. Of course, I haven't been able to eat proper food in the sense, I mean, it's all proper, but it hasn't been, it's all had to be either mushed up or cut up. And a few days ago, I weighed myself. I gained weight, so so I've been more than well looked after. And that was a surprise. But that, within the training, I think it's helpful to reflect on again the sense of the form, giving us a whole different way of relating to each other, relating to illness, relating to relating to the world around us, and having that emphasis on caring and attending to each other. Say like today, there was Paulo brought my meal down to me and said, you might not make it to pick up the tray right after because there was some concern that we'd heard that somebody was in the forest and there'd been some sound like the air horns we have when there's somebody. Every kuti's got an air horn. So, and there's a signal for fire. There's a signal for injury or illness, and so that people thought they'd heard. So we're going out and checking on the various monks who were on retreat and making sure that everybody's okay. And that again, there is that sense of it's a part of the training. It isn't sort of like, no, I've got my routine. 11 o'clock's a meal. I got to eat, and so you look after each other, and that's it's just part of again part of training. It's so. I think that's something quite distinctive, with being within a monastic tradition. It's very different from, say, like there's individual meditation retreat setting, or out in the world where you're quite out, everybody out for themselves. So it's and it is very much a part of the training. There's a very beautiful sutta where the Buddha is asked, what is it that allows the say the dispensation to thrive over a long period of time, and the Buddha responds by saying that it thrives and is firmly established over a long period of time when there is the monks, the nuns, the laymen, laywomen have a respect and deference for the Buddha, respect and deference for the Dhamma, respect and deference for the Sangha, respect and deference for the training, respect and deference for samadhi, cultivation of calm and composure, a respect and deference for heedfulness, appamada, or circumspection, and respect and deference for hospitality. Again, that sense of looking after others, receiving, taking care of people, and in the monastic training, there's a lot of the Buddha, and this is in the Vinaya that you get a lot of the details of the training, and sometimes when you read the suttas, it's the monks hear a teaching, go off and live by themselves, and then they're enlightened immediately, or in no short time. And there's not much of a fleshing out of the actual community life or life of the holy life, how the life of practice is lived, and but it's in the Vinaya that is sort of fleshed out more, and there's many aspects of the training and the manifestation or application of say respect and deference, how to do that. Like a simple way of how can't remember the circumstances in the Vinaya, but anyway, it comes in a but the Buddha, in laying down how do you create a structure or a hierarchy? Who pays respects to who? And of course, in any human collective of people, then there's going to be differing views and opinions. And of course, India at that time had a caste system, and that was very entrenched. It still is entrenched in the society, and of course, so there's people who felt that, of course, the Brahmin should be given the more respect. Then the warrior caste, then the sort of the merchants, and then the laborers, and then the people outside could be the scruff at the bottom. But that's or people say, well, it should be by attainment and spiritual attainment. So whoever's got the highest attainment. But then, who knows what that is? How do you tell? And so the Buddha said, no, it's whoever ordains first is there. They are, you can, and ordain the longest. He gives this sweet little tale of the. Sometimes he spoke in similes, and sometimes he spoke with kind of allegory and parable. And but anyway, in this case, he tells this little parable of a little shaggy dog tale of an elephant, a monkey, and a partridge, I think, a little bird, were living together, but they weren't getting along so well, and they were always competing with each other, and there would be some disagreements, and so then they said it'd be better if we had some kind of way of just deferring to each other, and maybe the person who's the oldest can be the leader. And he said, well, looking at a tree, where this, who has a memory of this tree, and the elephant sort of says, well, I can remember walking by that tree when I was a bit younger, and it would kind of tickle the bottom of my stomach, and so that was it was growing up. And then the monkey says, well, actually, I can remember when I was little, I could pick the buds of that tree, the leaves, those fresh leaves as they come out, and I used to eat them. So it was still smaller then. And then the partridge says, well, I can remember when there wasn't a tree, but there was a tree over there that I ate from, and came and defecated, and the seeds went up there, so it grew up. So the partridge ended up being the elder of the group, and the one that they said they would agree to defer to. So it's just a sweet story, and illustrating the fact it's really that's part of leaving the world, is leaving that whole realm of competition, comparing, vying for position, grading oneself, giving oneself a grade of how competent, incompetent, good, or whatever. I mean, it's there's just this is within the structure. We have various duties and responsibilities, and we pick them up as best we can, but look after each other. It's like, especially with illness, there was a time when a monk was really ill, and nobody was looking after him, and he'd done something to alienate the others somehow, and nobody was looking after him. But anyway, the Buddha was going around the monastery and suspected something at this good. Ananda was with him, and then they went in, and this monk was very ill. He had dysentery. He was soiled, and so that the Buddha and Ananda picked him up, washed him down, cleaned him up, cleaned up his place, and got him settled again. And then that evening, the Buddha called a meeting and asked, does anybody know about this monk? And the monk sort of said, yeah, well, he's there, and he's sick. Is anybody looking after him? And, no, nobody's looking after him. He's not. I can't remember what it was. Sort of,
he doesn't do anything for us.
He doesn't do anything for us, something like that. He's sort of no use to us. And the Buddha really, he chewed them out and said it's really not appropriate. You have taken on the training. You do not have your father, mother, brother, sister, wife, children. You really have to rely on each other, and you have to pay attention to looking after each other. He said, if anybody would look after me, then look after the sick. Sort of that, because everybody's probably running to look after the Buddha, but the Buddha was saying, just pay attention to looking after the sick. So that caring for each other is a value that's very important. And of course, within the structures of our training, the protocols of looking after elders and this caring. This is the Buddha. There's very extensive ways of being attentive to the needs of the caring for the robes, looking after the carrying the bowl, washing the bowl for them, looking after their kuttis, and so very extensive kind of protocols. But it's this sense of this practicality of training and learning how to look after. Learning how to look after somebody else other than oneself, and in a teaching that is rooted in, say, a non-self doctrine. That is not there's no self, there's no me, there's nobody here. So everybody out for themselves, sort of thing. That's not how it works. This sense of not self is a way of getting beyond that quite natural obsession with I, me, and mine, and to learn how to pay attention, to put oneself outside of one's own experience, and learn how to view the world from something other than one's own fixed position. And that takes mindfulness, and it takes training, and it takes a real alertness. And that developing of alertness to situation, paying what's actually needed within a situation, what's helpful within a situation. And even if it's something you've never done before, sort of like, oh, that's a good opportunity, because there's either some unfamiliarity or even some squeamishness. I remember the first time I cleaned Ajahn Chah's teeth. Because that's what you do. You go up after the meal and to take his bowl, and you'd set it aside, and then somebody else, one of the novices, come up and look at it, and you take his bowl and you start cleaning up around and putting any little other dishes that would be set up, and then he had full sets of false teeth, so he'd take his teeth out, and then you go and you clean his teeth for him. You'd have another set ready. He had his talking teeth and his eating teeth. And you go and you take his. Hey, look, I've never cleaned anybody's teeth before, but it's just this. Oh, okay, that's the way it works, and just learning how to do that. Or of course, Luang Por Sumedho tells it's one of his kind of favorite stories of talking about how, because when Ajahn Chah would come back from alms round, and in Thailand you go barefoot and you come back, and before you go into the dining hall or the sala, then you've got a little pool container with water in it, big enough so you step in and you could kind of wash your feet. But then there'd usually be a bunch of monks waiting for him to come back, and then they'd help wash his feet, and there'd be a few monks there with a towel, and so he'd come and dry his feet when he comes out, and Ajahn Sumedho was seeing this. He'd never seen it before, and how many people does it take to wash one person's feet? I mean, because he's then going on and on. There's this kind of aversion and he's sitting there having this kind of critical thoughts and this mood of resistance and aggravation and of course. And then, Luang Por Sumedho is very reflective, and he starts paying attention. Why do I make such a big deal of this? Why? It's because there's a big difference between me sitting here with my aversion and my irritation and my opinions of how things should be, and the kind of the joy that everybody's having being around Luang Por Chah and helping him out, and kind of the smiles and banter that goes back and forth. And he said, and me sitting here really miserable and grumpy over something that I don't like. And he said, and it wasn't long before there was another monk helping to wash Luang Por Chah's feet. And he'd get out there and do it himself. And there is a real joy to knowing how to be alert and attentive to being of service, helping others, having one's world not completely focused on oneself. And that is extremely important for the in terms of the path, and in terms of, say, samadhi, that sense of, where the Buddha says, having respect and deference to, like, the cultivation of samadhi, of concentration, or of the training. I mean, you start seeing how this path all kind of fits together, because there's so many discourses where the Buddha talks about the cultivation of samadhi and insight, and how it's based on well-being and happiness. Like the happiness that comes from, say, the blamelessness of virtue and integrity. The happiness that comes from the say, seclusion or stepping back from kind of the chatter and entanglement with the world. Of course, just the happiness that comes from the mind and heart that is well settled. So that the different ways that we can create happiness, and particularly from the Buddhist perspective, it's not always just sort of getting what one wants or getting an object of the senses that is pleasing to one, but happiness that arises from the wholesome, the skillful, from the beneficial, the kusala kamma, the actions by body, speech, and mind that are grounded in the kusala, the wholesome, the skillful. So just learning how to live one's life in a way that maximizes the arising and sustaining of the wholesome, and the relinquishing and the not feeding and preventing the unwholesome, the unskillful. And it's not just about a meditation technique, it's not just about willpower and willing oneself into it. It's everything contributes, everything is a factor. That cultivation, that respect and deference to appamada, heedfulness. So that's also, there's a circumspection, there's alertness that covers, in the Pali, appamada, that just says, not being heedless, being present and attentive, so that as we, especially with various duties and things that need to be done, need to be looked after. Just learning how to pay attention to the individuals of each, learning how to look after each other, but also learning how to look after the monastery itself. There's a lot of clarity that comes and cultivation that comes from just keeping things kind of neat and tidy. It was Leonard Cohen once was asked about the years that he spent in a Zen monastery. So he was in Mount Baldy. He was there for many years, and 5 or 6 or 7 years, and he's a well-known figure, and he's asked, what is this all about? And he says, well, it's like good housekeeping. It's ordinary for stuff to dust and dirt and bits of clothing to end up in odd corners. You just have to keep cleaning things and keep it. So he wasn't describing it in any kind of esoteric, philosophical way, talking about emptiness and ultimate truths. It's just keeping things in order, looking after things. Once you start learning how, like Ajahn Chah would oftentimes say, if you want to see what a person's mind is like, go look at their kuti. And there's usually a correlation there. And so that just keeping things neat and tidy. There's so that being attentive to the making sure stuff is put away, or making sure that everything's clean and neat and tidy. It's developing an attentiveness and a heedfulness in looking after the details of things. And it's because in terms of training of the mind, we have to develop an attentiveness to the details of the mind, details of the moods, details of the impressions and proliferations. Because once it gets rolling, it tends to be out of control. And so that being able to really pay attention and have that sense of heedfulness and circumspection with the moods and impressions and thoughts and feelings, so that you're always keeping it so that it's not coming back and biting you with dukkha. Sariputta is considered the chief disciple, foremost in wisdom, and but in the tradition, and of course he is, and the discourses that are attributed to Sariputta are almost invariably very structured and incredibly thorough and well thought through. But in the story of Sariputta's life, one of the things that Sariputta was noted for was that when he was living whatever monastery he was staying at, whatever community he was with, he would rather than being in the group that went off earlier to go on alms round and go for he would stay back, and he'd take his time to go around the monastery, pick up what needed to be picked up, sweep up what needed to be swept up, put away what needed to be put away, and after that, he would go and check on the sick monks. And after that, then he would go off an alms round. And so this is somebody who is considered foremost in wisdom, incredible ability for analysis and then describing of the practice and the path. But that attention to detail of the Dhamma was also the attention to detail on the things around him, the life around. And that was certainly, like with Ajahn Chah, it was incredible charisma, incredible ability to speak on the Dhamma, incredible ability to practice Dhamma. But he was also very attentive, very particular in how the monastery was set up, how the monastery was looked after, how the community took on the various duties to look after the place, so that it was, these things go together and you develop, they rely on each other, and you can use these external forms of practice to support the internal. They're important complements in our practice. So that this being, be attentive and being alert is you learn. You can, because sometimes interactions with the people around us and the contact that we do have with others is an important mirror for what our own moods, our own impressions, our own aversions and fears, and say like that, that come up, and learning how to use everything that we are doing as a part of training, and that's part of that respect and reverence for the Buddha, respect and reverence for Dhamma, respect and reverence for Sangha, respect and reverence for for the training, for Sikha, respect and reverence for concentration, meditation, calming, collecting the mind. Respect and reverence for heedfulness. Respect and reverence for hospitality and looking after each other. So I'll offer that for reflection this evening.
Sadhu, sadhu.